Hey, what's going on? Promise you'll stay. Said hi, just took step 2. I'm going to buy the token today. I'm so nervous. Awesome, awesome. How'd you feel about step 2? Any questions you have? Anything I can do for you? Promise you'll stay. Said it was doable. I'm not a super scorer, but the farm ads, OMG, horrible. Yeah, those questions can be really rough, really rough. One of the things that I started up recently, and I'll share my screen here. Let's see. It's my first time doing a YouTube live, so who knows if I'll be able to even get it working. So, in our secret archives, I just started a ethics and biostatistics new section for 2024, and we cover some of those kind of questions and concepts that you see all the freaking time in those ads questions, the biostats questions, those types of things, because they are just such a freaking pain. And I totally get that. Next question, any recommendations for resources to use for step 3? Obviously, I'm going to tell you that the secret archives is the best thing for step 3, in my genuine opinion. I'll just give you a little test run here. So basically, this is our secret archives. Let me just compress it all. So basically, it covers all the major concepts that you'll see on step 3. So whether it's IM, there's a bunch of videos here for cardiology, GI, hemonc, pulmonary, crit care, renal, endocrine, and then highest yield. Then we have surgery. We cover MSK, cardio, pulm, renal, optho for surgery, and then EM, cover toxicology, and then a complete review. Family medicine, we have highest yield and a complete review. Pediatrics, there's a highest yield and complete review. OBGYN, there's a complete review. Psych, there's a complete review. Same for neuro. Then for miscellaneous high yields, we cover all the random stuff that you see, like ENT, derm, immuno, optho. And there's a section of NBME, top things to know, some of the highest yield concepts, biostats, ethics. And then there's an Unleash Beast Mode crash course, some videos on anxiety management, and then some more bonuses that we're working on right now. If you go through this, I would literally take 2 weeks, go through the secret archive, and take your step 3. I'm not even kidding you. If you have a good basis with the questions with UWorld and the secret archives, there's nothing else that I would even recommend that you do. It will save you at least 50 to 100 hours on your step 3 prep easily. My highest scoring student for step 3 got 99th percentile. So it's 100% possible with just the secret archives, and then step 3, UWorld, nothing else. I see a couple other people hopping on. Feel free to drop any questions that you have. All right, next question. How to go through UWorld, do it completely, then incorrects. So it really depends on what exactly your goal is with your step three. So I'm going to kind of give you a couple different categories for you. If you are somebody that really wants to get highest percentile on step three, like I'm talking 99th percentile and up, then I would recommend reverse pyramid protocol for UWorld. If you just want to pass it and get moving on with your life and not have to worry about it anymore, then totally going through it one time and then doing your incorrects is totally appropriate. And so the only reason that you would actually care super high level about your step three performance is going to be if you are somebody that really wants to utilize that in your fellowship application. So for fellowship, some programs do slightly care about your performance. One of my high scorers, she's a pediatric resident. She just applied for fellowship. She said that they actually did care about her step three a little bit for some of the more competitive fellowships. But I've had many students in other specialties that said that they didn't care so much on their fellowship application. So it really depends which category you fall in. If you're somebody that places a lot of pride in high performance, or you want to match into a super hyper competitive fellowship, then by all means, that's the way I would do it. So if you just want to get it done with, in summary, Secret Archives, do your first pass of UWorld, rewatch the Secret Archives, do your incorrects, rewatch Secret Archives, take your exam, and you will literally crush it. You could score in the 90th percentile with just doing that, without a doubt. And within the Secret Archives, I'll show you. Basically, we have a Fibonacci protocol for the dedicated month, and it breaks it down exactly what you need doing every single day. And then, for example, if you want to spread it out for even longer, basically we have like a month by month setup of how exactly you should be doing it. So it's very, very easy to follow, meant to basically save you as much time as humanly possible. Good question. Feel free to fire away anymore. So the program is useful for step two and step three. Yep, that's exactly why I created how I did. I made it so that it basically covers only concepts that will be tested across shelf exams, step two and step three. And I broke it down so that that way you can use it most efficiently for all three of those. Mahin Manzoor Khan said, "What's your last 2 weeks strategy for step one?" Good question. So when you're in your step one prep, it's a little bit different than step two and step three. With your very last week of step one prep, and it depends how quickly of a reader you are, as well as how much you've used first aid. If you have used first aid throughout your UWorld preparation, you only need about 7 days for this. If you have not used first aid a whole lot, then it's going to be a very foreign resource for you, and you'll probably need at least 2 weeks for this. But I always, 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 whether it's step one, step two, or step three, recommend actually going through one total cumulative resource the week prior to your boards. So for step one, I recommend going from cover to cover of first aid, splitting it up into about 120-page segments, reading the entire book, and that way you can see every single high yield thing one more time. And it's very, very underrated going into your exam, having seen every major concept one last time, because at that point, you're able to essentially know, even if I don't remember every single thing here, I've at least seen it in the last week. So it's going to have some familiarity, and it will speed up your test taking. And then the week prior to that, obviously, you need to be going through and doing your MBMEs. any that you don't have left or reviewing the ones that you've already taken. Xenia said, how to create a residency program list, which are the best resources to use. So with your residency program list, let me show you. We'll go to residency applications here. So there's a couple different things that you need to keep in mind. Number one is you want to make sure you already have all your stuff ready for ERAS. That's the biggest thing. And I really, really like going to FRIDA. And so this is the AMA residency database. And so let's see here. Their website's changed around a little bit. Give me 1 second. Here we go. So go to frida.ama-assn.org, and I'll copy and paste that in the chat here. That way that you can copy that link. And so go to here and type in specialty. So for example, I'll just type in vascular surgery just because that's what I'm in. So vascular surgery integrated. And so depending on if you have a certain state that you want to go to, you can look at it by map. You can see which states actually offer vascular surgery positions, or you could go by list where you can go through every one of them one by one. And so you can go to the left-hand side, click either residency or fellowship. Obviously, you're looking for residency. Click the specialties that you're interested in, and then click the locations that you're interested in. And so here you can just leave all these. And if you don't want to narrow the search at all, you can basically just leave all these settings as they are. Obviously, you don't care what the first year salary is because it's just residency. It's not going to be great pay regardless. Average work hours per week, don't change that because that data is not going to be even accurate in FRIDA anyways. So for the most part, I leave all these things unchecked besides residency. And then you start going through. So for example, you got 78 results right here. So there's 78 different programs that have vascular surgery integrated positions. And what do you know? Here's mine. So we'll just click on this, University of Arkansas. And so once you go in here, you can see here's the program director, program coordinator. Last time it was updated. And you can see the information that they provide here for you. And so this, what I would do here is you can check it out. Some of this information may be accurate, some of it maybe not. But what you can do next is open up Google Sheets. And you can make a spreadsheet, something along the lines of like this. So program name, state, number of positions available, program director, program coordinator, and then any info that you can find out about it. And so you could put here like UAMS, it's in Arkansas, number of positions available is 1 per year. Program directors, Dr. Morsi, program coordinators, Carol Crowley. And summary could be like high emphasis on aortic interventions, high volume, etc. And you can start putting in little notes for each program. And that's what I did. I basically used FRIDA for all of this. Oh, can't see my screen. So sorry. Let me see if I can fix that. Here. Can you guys see that? Perfect. So basically what I'm saying is go to FRIDA. Here you are. Type in right here, vascular surgery, or whatever the specialty is that you're interested in. This left-hand side is what I was talking about, where the only thing that you really need to select is residency. The rest of this stuff can be left as is unless you really want to narrow your search. And then you just start going through programs. You can either click map right here. Oh man, sorry, this YouTube screen darn thing here is killing me. Let me start over one more time. I'll be quick. So go to FRIDA. Type in vascular surgery. Boom, integrated. Over on the left-hand side, this is where you would just select residency, and then leave all the rest of this stuff unchecked unless you want to narrow the location. This is really the only thing that I would even consider narrowing is the locations. Otherwise, just leave all the stuff completely the same. You can go over to the map and see the positions that they have available. So for example, boom, 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 you know that there's a couple positions in Florida, there's one in Arkansas, New York, etc. And if you don't want to look at it that way, you can look at it through the list. And so you can start going through all these programs one by one. So for example, here's my program, University of Arkansas for medical sciences. You can find the program director, contact information. You can find the program coordinator, contact information. They have their emails on here. So you want to always save their emails because that way you can actually reach out and ask questions or ask to be put into contact with any current residents, etc. And there's a little bit of data on here. Not all of it's super terribly useful, like estimated monthly costs. I mean, that's just a generalization. Obviously, that's not going to be specific for everybody. It all varies on where you live. But anyways, I basically use this to get all the contact information for every single person throughout this residency process. And I did this for every program. And so let me share you the screen of the spreadsheet I was making. So you can see here on the top, you can basically make some headings. So I like to make it as program name, state, number of positions available, program director, program coordinator, info summary. And here you could put like mmorc@ums.edu is his email, for example. And so that way, whenever you want to go back and start contacting programs, you have all this in one location. And so what you can do once you start interviewing is you can put your first column to be rank. And so you can easily go through here and be like rank 1, rank 2, rank 3, whatever. And then you can start dragging and dropping this information. So if this program goes down to rank 4, you can just drag and drop it like that. And so that will save you a lot of headache down the road if you have some organization with this process. So that's a great question. Let me know if anybody else has any questions. Next question. In your opinion, what all experiences are worth mentioning in ERAS CV? So previously, you could actually list as much as you wanted on ERAS. So you could basically just go on there and list a million things if you wanted. And there's really not like any tight constraints on the amount of activities. So now, with the 10 experiences limit, the thing that you have to keep in mind is which things illustrate you the best as a person. So don't just put something on there just for the sake of it. You want to essentially put stuff on there that shapes the applicant that you want to be. So for example, if you want to be an applicant that embodies work ethic or embodies humanitarianism, those are the character traits that you want to put on display whenever you're creating your ERAS CV. So for example, if I wanted to show work ethic, then I would show job experiences I've had, medically related jobs. So stuff such as medical assistant, certified nurse aide, working in a nursing home, working in a hospital, any kind of ways that you were able to help mentor and teach, and all these character traits that show that you work super, super hard. And so that's really the biggest thing. So whenever I teach this, I'll share my screen here again. I call it the applicant strata. And I have a video about this, but in essence, applicant strata, you want to break down which category you fall under. So if you want to fall under the researcher category, you want to make sure you have over 5 publications, over 5 case presentations, over 1 quality improvement project, couple abstract submissions, clinical and non-clinical research, online journals are easy leverage, national and local conferences, M&M presentations, and journal club. So there's all kinds of ways that you can emphasize what exactly you want to on your application. And the strongest applicants are the ones that have a story that helps your interviewer identify with you, and also the applicants that are able to show their passion the best. And if you put stuff on your ERAS CV that you're not passionate about just to fill the space on there, it's not going to be nearly as effective. That's a huge, huge thing that I always tell everybody. Don't just put something just for the sake of putting it. You really want to make sure that it's something that embodies you as a person. All right. Next one, Deep Dive Mystery said, what would you recommend to study for the last few days for 74% on free 120? It's a good question. So the last few days, let's say that you have about 10 days or less until your exam and you're scoring a 74%. It's going to depend on what your actual goal performance is. So let's say that you want to score above 250 and you're scoring 74%. That's cutting it very close. It's not impossible by any means, but you're right at the cusp of being in that high 70 to low 80 range where you want to be to consistently score 250. And so one of the things that you need to keep in your mind is having 1 or 2 sections that are a substantial weakness are going to be the things that can hold you back from that goal because you're super, super close. And so you need to get essentially 1 to 2 more questions correct on each block to ensure you're scoring into the 250 score range from where you're at currently. So what I would do, go to your UWorld, go to your recent MBMEs, look at whichever Oregon system that you were the weakest on and go through all those missed questions again. And what you can also do is go through your MBMEs and spot check. Look for those topics that fall within that category. So let's say that you're weak in cardiology. Go to your MBMEs and skim through and see which questions were cardiology related. Go to the CMS forms, do the internal med cardiology questions, do the family med cardiology questions. Go to your UWorld, redo those cardiology missed questions, or at least reread through them and make sure that in the back of your mind, you're able to visualize what the correct answer would be, even if you didn't read the whole prompt, but basically just to jog your memory on what that high yield concept was. So only focusing on the weak points in the last few days if you've been through everything. Feel free to drop any other questions. I got you guys. Next question from Deep Dive Mystery. Would a below 250 score be a red flag on an application? Well, it's going to entirely depend on which specialty that you're applying for. So, for example, if you're applying for family medicine, internal medicine, and peds, and obviously there's other specialties. I mean, you can put psych in that category as well. A 250 is a very solid score. It's very solid. And it's not going to be one that loses you that many interviews. Sure, obviously the higher the better, pretty much as a general rule. But you're going to be very, very solid. If you're applying for something like integrated plastic surgery, a 250 is obviously not going to get you very many, if any, interviews. It's not impossible, but it's going to definitely cut you out. So it really depends on the specialty. For most specialties, though, a 250 is still solid, but it's not going to be exemplary. I always like to tell people that if you're unsure of where your performance is at, you should go ahead and try and score at least above the score that you're aiming for on your most recent 2 NBMEs by a good 5 points. And that way, that if you overshoot it, awesome, you way overshot the goal, you crushed it. But that way there's also wiggle room if anxiety comes in on test day. I have had students score, let's say, a 250 as their highest on an NBME, and then they go in there and get 253 or 255. I've seen it before many times. But as an educator and as a coach, I can't recommend you to go and take the test with the hope of that happening. I always say that hope is not a good strategy. Feel free to drop any other questions in the comment box, guys. Deep dive mystery. When should personal statements and letter of rec be ready by an application season? Dude, the sooner the better. The sooner the better. So we're already in August. You want to have all that stuff locked in the next 3 weeks max. I always tell people, give yourself some wiggle room. You don't want to be submitting your stuff like September 14th if ERAS opens on September 15th, for example. You want to have all that stuff in early. And because the biggest issue is going to be your letters of recommendation. If you have not asked for them yet, ask for them literally on Monday. Like today's Saturday, ask for them by Monday, because it takes a lot of letter writers at least a month to put it together, even though it takes 15 minutes to get it done. I mean, I've written letters of rec. I've went through obviously thousands of letters of rec as a person on the application board for my program. And it doesn't take very long to actually do it, but human nature is procrastination. And so one of the pro tips is, if you're asking a letter writer and they say, when do you need this by? Don't say by the first day of ERAS. Tell them that you would like to have it by the 1st of September. That way that you have all the time that you need to gather your resources, accumulate everything, put it together, and get your application in on a timely fashion. And same with personal statements. You want to have all that stuff done. I mean, as soon as your step 2 is done, essentially you want to just bang out your personal statement and get it done with. And I'll share my screen here. Useful information. So for example, go to nrmp.org and you can go through here and actually look at the dates and add them to your calendar. So for example, the day that match registration opens, you want to have all your stuff ready. Like you don't want to be even waiting one day afterwards, because some programs go in there, pull all your data literally that day, and then never go back and pull late applicants. And some will, but a lot of them do not. And so go to this calendar here. This has all the timelines. URAS is going to open at noon on September 16th. You have all this stuff here. You can start ranking your programs February 3rd. Your rank order list is due March 5th. Again, same similar thing. You don't want to be changing all of your rank orders the night before that this is due. Just get it done. Give yourself a week of wiggle room. And that way you're not stressing. Oh, I see that you can't see my screen. Sorry. Let me see if I can fix that. There you go.
What happened?
It's a war.
But long story short, you want to go to the NRMP calendar. Find it. Boom. Match calendars. You're going for the residency match. You can add these dates to your calendar. It literally has a button to add it to your calendar, so you might as well.
That's all I got. Yeah. Double A batteries, some antacid.
When you got random, you was laughing because she still checked your ass. What you talking about? Before you went through to, I don't think the family would understand that. She was like, oh, okay. I was like, what? All right. Which one are you talking about? Before you went. Oh, because I was at the captain and he was doing. Oh, when you got random. No, I knew I was gonna get random. I've been on the street. I've been on the street.
I got random yesterday. What was it, yesterday or day before?
So we looking like this is last.
Deep Dive Mystery said, is interviews outside of the signals likely? So it's gotten really tricky in the last few years. Basically, it depends on how many signals that your specialty has. So let me actually move because it's very loud here while we talk. With programs that only have a few signals, so let's say that you have a specialty with like 10 or less signals, it is certainly possible to get interviews outside of the signals just due to the algorithm. But if your specialty has like 20 to 30 signals, there's almost no chance that you're going to get interviews outside of those signals because they have an inundation of signals. So it's all a numbers game. Next question. Abhinav Mahajan said, give us tips about SOP writing. What do you mean by SOP writing? Are you talking about standard operating procedures, or what do you mean? What do you mean by SOP writing? Xenia said, any ERAS CV tips? Absolutely. So one of the really useful videos here in our members area, if you go to ERAS, all this is broken down on here. The very most basic session here is 1 hour long. Have a doc that goes with it. Let's see if it'll pull up on this airport Wi-Fi. But basically, it breaks down every single step of it. So on your ERAS, your dashboard, your personal information, biographic information, geopreference rules, signaling rules, education, setting up your experiences, how exactly to do that. All that is broken down in there and super, super easy for you here to understand. So definitely follow that. I have an FAQ session here where I go through some of the most common questions. Bobby Swade says, is this strictly about Match App or can we ask study tips? Dude, you can ask anything you want. I'm going to hop off here in a little bit once my plane starts boarding, but you can ask anything you want that's med school related or residency related.
I'm Little Rock Mayor Frank Scott Jr., and I want to welcome you to Little Rock at Bill and Hillary Clinton National Airport. Little Rock is Arkansas' state capital and center of commerce, finance, and healthcare for the region. While you're here, we hope you take advantage of everything our city
Abhinav
has to
said,
offer,
sorry, it's
like
personal
great
statement.
restaurants,
Right here,
world-class
check this
museums,
out,
and
man.
premier outdoor
So,
recreational activities.
Paragraph 1,
Little Rock is a diverse,
intro.
thriving
Why
city
the
with so much
specialty?
to offer.
Make your interest
Enjoy your
tangible.
time here, and we
So
hope to
this
see
is
you
really an
again soon.
intro to why you're actually applying for that specific specialty. Paragraph 2 is where I start mentioning personal anecdotes or stories of why you're interested. And then paragraph 3 is anything about your future plans. So this is kind of the basic framework that I recommend just to give you some ideas to get started. Boom, 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 3 paragraphs. Break it into one big idea per paragraph, and that should help you out. People ask me all the time, should you mention drawbacks on stuff that you have failed on or things that have weakened your application? And generally, I say no for personal statements. There's a time and a place, but your personal statement is about your passion for the specialty. It's not your time to make excuses for the things that have went wrong in your journey. Bobby said, my man, how would you rate first aid step 2 as a resource? I found it helpful to consolidate info before shelf exams, but don't know if it's worth it to read the entire book like step 1 first aid. 100% not worth your time. 100% not. I don't have any of my students read first aid for step 2. I always say the Secret Archives has literally everything that's essentially tested on your step 2, and it's actually up to date, unlike first aid for step 2. No problem, man. Happy to help. I'm going to drop some more personal statement tips into the chat here. That's too long. It won't let me post it all. Bobby said, any thoughts on med peds residency versus FM? Seems like they accomplish same thing, but at different competitive levels. I mean, dude, if you really want the emphasis on peds, then, I mean, med peds is cool. If you want to have some pediatric patients, but really focus on middle age as well as some elderly patients, and here and there sprinkling some pediatrics, then FM's still great. I mean, it just depends on what your long-term goal is. So, for example, for people that really genuinely want to open up a private practice, I would just go with FM. MedPeds is going to give you more hospital-based time. It's going to focus more on the inpatient side a little bit more than FM, which obviously Family Med will give you a couple inpatient months, but MedPeds is generally going to have a few more. Abhinav said, I used all your videos for Shelf in Step 2. It was gold. There were questions on Step 2 directly from it. Thank you for posting them. The integrated med surgery video is gold. Dude, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for the feedback. I appreciate that. Back to the personal statement tips. We'll go through some of them here. It wouldn't let me share it in the chat, but number one, you want to have only one patient interaction story. I don't like it when people start mentioning 2, 3, 4 different patient interactions, because then it starts to get really about the patient interactions more so than your passion specifically for the specialty. So that's one. Number two, if you do have a patient story, make sure you put your name in quotes of the patient. That way that the reader knows that you're not violating HIPAA, that it's not a real name. You basically just make up a fake name for that patient. So it could be like Barbara or Bob or whatever you want to call them. Number three, make sure that your personal statement is personal about you. Again, we all have patients that we love, but it's not about the patient. It's a personal statement, not a patient statement. So that's a really common mistake that I see. Number four, make sure that you read it out loud. So your personal statement, you want to make sure it flows and the reader can get into the same mindset as you. So read it out loud. See if your phrasing is right. Bobby said, have you tried the Awake chocolate bites? Each one is 50 milligrams caffeine. Me and my attending have been buying them in bulk. Yeah, dude, they're freaking awesome. One of the private hospitals that I work at actually has them in the doctor's lounge. Every single time I walk by it, I grab a couple. They're really good. For just kind of like a random gift, I sent my girlfriend a whole box of them like a couple months ago. She's a big caffeine heavy user. Abhinav said, can we mention our past educational achievements in there? Meaning in the personal statement. For example, I already have a doctor of PT and work experience. Can I mention that? Yeah, 100%, man. 100,000%. Because that's shaped you into who you are as a person. So I would absolutely mention that. Especially if it's something really notable. Like going through all of physical therapy school. Obviously, that's crazy. That's like a huge accomplishment that 99% of doctors will not have under their belt. So that's something that you definitely want to mention. Definitely. And it depends how notable the work experience is. If it's like working at Walmart, obviously don't mention that in your personal statement. But if it's working in the hospital or working in a clinic, that could be something that could really shape your application. Abhinav said, thank you, appreciate your tips. Absolutely, happy to help. Let me know what other questions you got. I'll stick around for another 15 minutes or so. Abhinav said, how many programs we should apply to the least? I'm going for neurology. I've got a background in neuro rehab. Dude, that's going to be a case-by-case basis. That depends on your scores, your application, which sounds like you have a pretty solid application, and if you have connections or super strong letters of rec. When it comes down to it, you really, really do not want to under-apply. Let me pull up some data here. I'll show you. Just give me 1 second. The NRMP changed up their website a little bit in the last couple of months, so let me find it. Here we go. Let me share my screen. Like, for example, this is just the one that came up first. So this is the match data for IMGs, and this just happens to be 2022, but you can just Google whichever year you want to look up. Scroll down here. and you can see the match rates. So you can see, let's see, neurology. For USIMG, it's a 54% match rate. And so then what you would do is you search for neurology in the document. And you're going to want to go down to, let me just scroll down here using the scroll bar. There's just so many points here for it. All right, here we are. So you find neurology, okay? And you want to scroll down to this screen right here. And so this screen is going to have how many contiguous ranks are necessary to have a high chance of matching. So you want to have at least 8 ranks. So that means 8 programs have to give you an interview and you rank them to have a mean chance of matching. Mean number of distinct specialties ranked. Most people are only applying for neurology. They're not applying for multiple other specialties here. The mean step 2 score here. So if you're above this step 2 average, you're going to also obviously increase your competitiveness, number of research, et cetera, et cetera. So look through here and see how you kind of stack up compared to the mean matched applicant. And then you scroll down, you can start seeing here some of these bar charts that are extremely helpful for you. And you can look here at, depending on how many ranks you get, this is the most useful chart out of all these, I think. So for example, if you have 13 programs that you rank, meaning you had 13 interviews, you got like a 97% chance of matching. You're almost guaranteed going to match just based upon the algorithm. And then you can start looking here at how that your step scores relate, how that different data points do, how much research you have, et cetera, et cetera. So that's how that you use the NRMP data to basically see how much that you need to apply for. So for example, if you see that you need about 10 contiguous ranks, I would apply for like 100 programs. No joke. And there's no downside to applying for more, except for cost.
Little Rock is Arkansas state capital and center of commerce.
All right, let's see.
Finance, and health.
Next question by Leif Albawi. Would you advise to do a minor in the U.S. as a Dutch medical student? I'll be honest, I don't know what you mean by a minor. If you mean like a rotation in the hospital, absolutely. I know that that's an option that some of the Dutch medical students do. I highly, highly recommend it, but I'm not sure exactly what you mean by a minor. Abhinav said, this is great. Thank you. Absolutely. Happy to help. The one thing I don't like as much about the YouTube lives as our usual weekly Zoom calls is I can't see who's on here with me. I can only see if you guys comment, at least as far as I can tell. Light said, all right, great. Have a nice day. Absolutely. If you have any other questions, feel free to drop them. Like said, do you know the possibilities to do your specialty in the U.S. as a Dutch doctor? Hey, like, that's really all about what you're interested in. I mean, it's always 100% possible, but it doesn't mean it will be easy by any means. Shadow client, let's go. Glad to have you here, man. It's been a good session. First YouTube live. Good questions here. Usually we do these on Zoom, but just figured I'd switch it up here at the airport today. What questions do you guys have?
Good morning. I would like to welcome you to the boarding area. Thank you for choosing to fly American. We'll begin boarding flight 38.
I'll drop the program list template that I made earlier, just in case anybody wanted to have that. You can go ahead and save it and make a copy. All right, guys, we're gonna hop off here. We'll call it a day. I'll announce the upcoming live streams and Q&A sessions in our school group, and hopefully I'll see you guys there. Take it easy.